Hello, Facebook.
Good morning, all of our Facebook friends. This is Randy Karchner and Lorin Nicholson. Lorin is, of course, in Australia, and I'm here in North Potomac, Maryland, DC area. And we have a few thoughts that we wanted to share with you this morning about the essence of self-confidence and what that means. And it's essentially about having developing the confidence by doing a lot of personal development yourself, because your business or whatever you want to do is seldom going to exceed your own degree of personal development and things that you do. And Lorin and I both, as musicians, we know what that's all about from practicing when we're kids. I guess when you're a kid and you don't really think about it too much, you just, for whatever reason, either you're like, in my case, my mom said, well, if you don't practice, you're not going to get this. So I decided, okay, whatever, I want that. But I got more confident as I practiced the piano and the violin. And Lorin, do you have any experiences about that?
Did you play violin, Randy?
I did.
How old were you when you did violin and piano?
I was probably in the third grade, I think. When I also played baritone. But
he's a multi-instrumentalist, everyone is.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's, what did I know? It's just like, my mom wanted me to do something like that. So I started on
let me ask you a question, though. Yep. I mean, you played piano. Mm-hmm. What was it like? Do you remember your first concert or your first public recital?
I don't. I remember playing in the small orchestra at elementary school.
That was with other musicians, though, wasn't it? Not solo.
Yeah, it was with other musicians, but the problem is that I started on viola and I was starting on piano at the same time, and because viola has a different clef, I couldn't take the treble and the
C clef. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funky for me. So I switched to violin, and then I got it okay at that point.
I ask you that because let me share with you something that happened to me.
Please.
I started piano when I was younger too. Not many people know that, but I actually played piano too. I changed to the guitar because guitar is more cool than piano.
Always will
just
be.
saying it. So guitar was cool. But when I was in like grade 9, which over in the States is like my junior year, our class decided that we were going to do a class project and go busking. And so we went down to the main street of town, and we had a few groups of musicians all set up, to play. And we took it in turns. All right, your turn to busk. Okay, it's your turn. And so I sat there and I was playing my guitar. And as I heard somebody, because I couldn't see them coming, but I heard them coming. And as I heard the footsteps coming along past, I stopped playing until they walked past. And then I started playing again. And then the next person came and they walked past. I stopped playing again. I'll tell you what. And so I sort of think, how can I really develop self-confidence, to actually play in front of people? I think I've identified a couple of things, because I performed on national television, with millions of people watching, and it's a great feeling. And interestingly, the same, what could you say, the same feelings, the same emotions for feeling nervous or scared like that is almost the same emotions or feelings that you get when you feel excited and exhilarated as well. Your heart rate starts to increase, and and I think that it's a kind of, so firstly, if I was to share something with everybody, it's like channel your that nervous energy into a positive direction rather than letting it crush you, or turn you in a negative direction, because it's adrenaline. It's sort of like, this could really work out well if I put my best effort in. And the other thing I learned too, though, was that even if I was to sit in front of some of the best guitar players in the world, I'm pretty confident that they would really enjoy, not only would they enjoy listening to hear me play, they would learn something from listening to me play. And so I think with that in mind, it's like, isn't that what self-confidence is about? It's like we're all unique. We're all different, you know. Even if I play piano and you play piano, Randy, we can appreciate and learn and from each other, and because we bring something different. You're a unique individual, and so becoming comfortable with who you are is important, because you are different. I'm not competing against you. I'm just bringing something personal and unique. And but coming back to that story about the busking, so what happened to me after that is I then got on stage with a couple of musicians, and so I wasn't the central spotlight. I shared the stage, and so the focus was on the guy singing and not so much on me, and so that helped to build my confidence just a little bit. And then I had to do a guitar solo one time, and then the spotlight went from the singer to me and then back to the singer. So I had a little moment that I had to step out of myself, and eventually get to a point where you can get on stage by yourself and perform without letting the nerves get you.
Yeah.
And so, it's just a gradual process of practice, and it's interesting because certainly as a musician, you can have really great players that aren't very good performers, and you can have really good performers that aren't necessarily the best players. And it takes practice. All of these things take time and take practice, and as you do that, you build your confidence and your competence as well. So building confidence helps confidence.
Absolutely. And I love all the things that you said. And there's, as a musician, and kind of to your point, there's being a soloist, and then there's being able to play in a group. A lot of people are really good at soloing, and they're used to that. They're not used to playing with an ensemble or with a group of people. And then there's people that aren't used to playing solos as much. That was definitely me. I was always a part of a group, pianist or an accompanist. I was always behind somebody. So one of my gifts is to build somebody else's performance by what I'm doing. And there's this communication thing that happens between, like, a vocalist, for example, and the pianist. And there's just things that nobody says, but you just feel, kind of through the airways what the other person's going to do. Playing solos just by myself has always been really scary, because I really didn't work on that as much as I did playing with an ensemble. But when you're playing sessions, which I did in college a lot, then you're playing with other musicians. And there's a lot of guys that wouldn't get the call. They're great soloists, but they wouldn't necessarily know how to play with a rhythm section in the studio and make it work. So, you develop confidence in the things that you do more of. And I remember when I first got to college, we had to have this entrance, kind of going in and playing in front of a bunch of other musicians to see where we would get placed within the program. And that was really scary. I never do as well taking tests or doing stuff like that when there's a lot on the line, even if I was confident about what I did. But college was a great place to learn what your unique abilities are and be able to build on that, rather than comparing yourself to everybody else. And that's something I wanted to mention too, because we tend to want to compare ourselves to somebody else, and we'll compare our worst with somebody else's best. And that doesn't really help yourself to kind of get the confidence, because it's about building what you do, what's unique to you. What are the things that people say around you about, because they'll notice what you do really well and they'll tell you. So if you're hearing something a lot from different people, that's a clue that you're really good at that particular thing, and remember that. And somebody else is going to be good at something else. So as we're building our own confidence and building self-efficacy and stuff like that with what we want to do, we have to remember that we're an individual. We all have specific talents and abilities, but just because you have the talent and ability doesn't mean that doesn't necessarily that doesn't necessarily make you instantly the best at what you do. You have to really work at it. You have to practice a lot. You know, with you doing a lot of public speaking and getting out there, you have to get out there a lot, and you learn from your successes and the things that don't work so well. You can turn anything that maybe didn't work so well into something positive because you know what to do next time to maybe change that a little bit. So anyway, just some thoughts from both of us today, folks, about building self-confidence. And don't be afraid to get in there and try new things, figure out what works best for you, listen to other people around you, and fill yourself with positive stuff every day, thinking about what you want to accomplish, and then look for every opportunity to practice that so you'll get better at it. Any other thoughts you want to share, Lorin?
Randy, I think that's great. I mean, look, we could talk about this for a while. Couldn't really. I mean, confidence really does is driven very much, isn't it, by emotion, whether that be you know, a negative or fear-based emotion, or a positive and energetic, you know, emotion. I mean, one of the things I just crossed my mind too is just for those that are confident too. I think it's just important too for us to kind of be humble about that too, you know, and allow. I mean, just because someone is humble doesn't mean that they're not confident. In fact, it's just because someone's an introvert doesn't mean that they lack confidence or self-confidence either. You know, I mean, all of us have the capacity to have that self-assuredness or that self-confidence to do what we do. And so my challenge, I think, to everyone too, is when you find yourself developing that confidence, use it in an outwardly positive force rather than an inwardly look at me kind of attribute, isn't it? You know, look at what good you can do with it. And I think that's the one thing too. And you know, as a performer, I'm not doing it for my own accolades. I'm doing it because I want to entertain the audience. I want them to have a good time, and of course that they are there to have a good time. And so if I can help you to have a good time, well then that's you know, that's a positive experience for them. And I think you know, this idea of confidence really does have so many dimensions to it.
Yeah, exactly. I love what you said too. Being confident doesn't mean that you're cocky. You know, it doesn't have to mean that at all. It's just that you're confident in what you do. And when you really get more mature about whatever you're doing, you recognize that you're confident at your particular abilities and your a different slant on things. If somebody else can come in and make a completely different interpretation, but people will start hiring you and want to work with you because of your interpretation. They like the way that you approach it. And even if somebody else might be technically a better player or better at that particular thing, they like the way that you approach it. So that's a big part of self-confidence, I think, too. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. Lorin Nicholson and I on Get Motivated with Lorin and Randy. Hope you'll join us in a couple of weeks when we do another one. And make it the best week ever. And peace out from Washington, D.C.
Same from Australia.
Okay.
Have a good one, guys. Yeah.